Knut. Hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Bit of a different format, so I hope this is all going smoothly. Look, to get started, I'd like to thank Renew. Like what Annie was saying before, I totally agree that tremendous effort. Anna, Sophie and Jess, who I've been dealing with, I'm sure there's a ton more people. And we're here today to talk about prefab homes. So I've got the pleasure to guide you through this session. Just very quickly, very briefly about myself. I'm the director of CarbonLite, and we specialise in prefabrication ourselves in high performance and passive houses. Today is going to be a crack of a session because we've got a whole range of prefab options that we're going to be talking about. We have got a CLT passive house, and then we have got a panelised passive house, and we have got a straw bale system and a modular system. So there's quite a range of their prefab is not prefab, so it's very excited to have these different panelists there. Now, in the order as it is on the program, it is going to be Knut first, then we'll hand over to Joe. From there on, we go to Sam and then to Ash. Is everyone okay with that? Okay, excellent. So what I'd like you guys to do, get started, introduce yourself, and I'd like you to also just briefly talk about what you do and what is so unique and different and special about what you do. Knut, we get started with you, please.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I think it was actually the owner, Dave, who's also part of the meeting, who is
sorry.
Use,
yes.
The house.
I can't really see him. Is it?
Yeah,
get started and start talking about it. And if David can join us, he can join us in and comment as well.
I just unmuted. Thank you very much.
Oh, there he is.
Hi. Yeah, thanks. This is our lovely home in Balgowlah, the northern suburbs of Sydney, right near Menden. Yeah, so we purchased this lot about 3.5 years ago, and there was a 100-year-old Californian bungalow on the site, and it's a really old home which had basically no renovations done in the 100 years, and you know, our first thoughts are this will be a knockdown for sure. But yeah, luckily we met Knut and Betty actually 7 years ago through our firstborn child, and we're in the same mother's group, and so we've known them for a while, and it just so happens that Knut's one of our Sydney and I guess Australia's experts in CLT construction, and that worked out really well for us. So I mean, the house itself is about 100 square meters. It's on a 550 square meter block out the back, and the house had to be craned in panel at a time. You can see one of the pictures here where the crane's lifting the panel, and it had to be craned over the existing house from the street over a power line. And that was done in 15 hours over the space of 2 days. We also had the insulation, the air tightness layer, and the roofing, and it was all watertight within a period of 8 days. Yeah, so I guess I'll give a little bit of introduction to Knut as well. He's an architect, and his wife is an interior designer and architect in Germany. And yeah, we worked with them for quite a while, and he can give you a lot of detail and answer a lot of technical questions.
Okay, a lot of CLT exposed on the inside. It's just stunning. Love that look. I've got a 2-year-old at home. How is the CLT holding up with pencils, drawings on the inner face?
The boys have penciled on the floor, and we've just wiped it off.
Oh, nice. Yeah, okay. I've given up on mine. I just got to sand everything and repaint it.
Yeah, but that's a good thing. Like the timber, you can just sand, and
yeah.
You know, if it doesn't come off with a wet cloth, then just sand it and recoat it. But you know, with young kids, we've got 3 young kids. There's a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old. We always anticipated that at some point we will refinish the floors.
Yeah. Yep. Excellent. That is a very interesting project. I'm sure there will be a ton of questions for you. I'm just going to move over to Joe from Blue Eco Homes. Joe, we haven't spoken in a long time. congratulations, I guess, for the first certified passive house in New South Wales, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, g'day everybody. Joe Mercieca here, Blue Eco Homes. Yeah, hope you're enjoying the day. So we built a certified passive house to flame zone up in the Blue Mountains last year, which we're using also as a display home. Just a little bit about our journey and why we've ended up leading to prefab. So we've been doing sustainability for about 15 years. About 5 years ago, we sort of started looking at all the inherent issues with our current building stock, as far as condensation, lack of thermal comfort, high energy costs, and just general poor health in the homes. We then researched and looked through the issues. We kept coming back to passive house with all those issues. So then I did a tradesman's course with Burkhard, excellent teacher. Thank you, Burkhard, for the course and inspiration. And then we decided that passive house was the way of the future. So we embarked on building the Sapphire home as a display, learnt a lot off it. You know, it was to Bell FZ as well, which complicated a few things, but we love a challenge. The Sapphire has been well received by the general public and industry. Last week we won the HIA Australian Green Smart Home for the Sapphire passive house.
Yeah, congratulations.
With the passive house, with the Sapphire, we achieved air tightness of 0.39 air changes an hour at 50 pascals. Energy usage 13.3 kilowatts per day without solar, and keeping the average room temp about 21 degrees. So from building the Sapphire, we sort of at the end of it, or right through it and the end of it, looked at how we could build passive house a lot more economical and quicker. So we started looking into different construction methods, prefab, SIPS panels, and just general conventional materials. We then, COVID hit, so that disjointed everything. So we decided to design our own prefab system, which we have done, and we met basically to weathertight, roof on, ready for cladding and services and gyprock internally in 5 days, and achieving 0.28 air changes an hour. We're pretty sort of chuffed with the system. Yeah, so we're just forging ahead. There's going to be a few links that we can attach to the chat. One of them is about Passive House Conference coming up early next month, and also just a couple of videos of the prefab installation. So yeah, hope you enjoy the day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Very interesting. Thanks, Joe. Next up, we've got Shannon and Sam. Guys, I've lived up in the Highlands of Scotland, and we had a bit of a straw bale system, so I'm very much looking forward to what you got to say, and how there was a few challenges that we had to overcome, that was for sure. So if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself and tell us a brief overview of your project, please.
Shannon and Pan, do you want to start, and then I'll kick on?
Sure, yeah. Hi, I'm Shannon and this is Pan. I'm not sure if people can see us. We can't see ourselves. So Pan and I built this solar passive straw bale house down on the south coast of New South Wales. We used Viva Living Homes straw bale panels. The house comprises of offset 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom, and they're joined together by a shared roof and the decking that you can see out the front. So the house is a little over a year old. It's a new build. We found the block, we got the site ready. It took us 4.5 months from when we broke ground to lock up. What else can I say about it? I'll hand over to you, Sam. to speak more on the technical, I guess, part about the Viva Living panels. And what I've got to say about that is it was extraordinary that we built the house in such a short amount of time, and having those panels prefabbed off-site and brought on site and just put up in less than a day was phenomenal. And it's performing really well, if anyone's thinking how it's performing, very well. Sam.
Thanks, Shannon. Yeah, just to give people an idea of our background, we started building in straw bale. Our first house was in 2000. We've built over 60 straw bale homes and by now, and we've progressed now into panels because, like Joe, we could see what's happening with the building industry. There's a lot of wasted time, materials on site. So we're now shipping these straw panels out pre-rendered. We get them on site. We render the joints if they are on the inside, and if they're rendered on the outside, the same thing. So, like Joe, we'll get from slab down to lock up in 5 days now, which is knocking a third of the build time off our straw bale houses, which is saving big dollars for the clients.
Yep.
And a typical build is under 6 months, and sometimes much less. So the panels can be clad or rendered on the outside. They essentially, yeah, they come in, they get craned into place, and the walls are all up in a day. So we're still getting the beautiful features of the straw bale houses with, you know, R values of 4.1, and they're fully braced. And yeah, we're talking to a client now too about throwing them into a passive house. So we're really excited about where the future's going with all this prefab, because the whole building industry will be turned on its head in the next 5 to 8 years with prefabrication and modular building.
I agree, and it's about time too. It's going to be very crucial to be able to deliver to this current housing demand. There is only one solution. There's only one response, and that is going to be prefab. So, thanks very much for that. There is a lot of questions that I've got, and I'm sure I can see the Q&A already lighting up. So if we're getting through the last one, Ash, I can't see you. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Ash, thanks very much. You're also a sponsor of this session.
Yeah, no worries.
It's great. You are in the modular business. Right?
Yes, we are. Ecoliv Buildings, we're a prefab modular housing company. We're based in Monthaggi, Victoria. We've been in operation for about 11 years now. My background is in building design. I've been building designing for 20 years and focusing on sustainability for most of that time as well. So Ecoliv is, so prefab, we have 1-bedroom houses up to 4-bedroom houses, totally built in our yard in Monthaggi here in our construction facility. And then we transport these houses all around Australia. So we've sent stuff across to Tasmania, in the spirit of Tasmania, South Australia, Northern Queensland, Southern Queensland, New South Wales, and all through Victoria as well. So one of the big things we do is focusing on sustainability with all of our builds. So in terms of the design and the construction principles as well. So everything's a lot of quality control within a construction facility where we've got a big emphasis on reducing waste of materials. So less stuff going into skip bins than compared to a traditional on-site build. And we design all our buildings to be in like standardised building increments, so there's less wastage in terms of claddings and framing and what sort of gear. So they're all timber frame construction. We always strive for a 7-star energy rating with all the builds. And we have a focus on all the materials we use as well, as I mentioned, in terms of being timber construction. There's heavy insulation, double glazing. We do a lot of research into the materials in terms of their toxicity. So there's low VOC paints, there's very minimal MDF, if anything, in the house. All the glues, all those sort of things. So it's a complete sustainable package. And a good thing of this, it's really good for remote projects. We did a job in Jindabyne last year. We were on site for 2 weeks doing footing preparation, then delivered and out of the place like in 2 weeks' time. So it's about probably 4 to 6 weeks site disturbance and being on site. House just turns up, totally finished. All your kitchens are in there, your tiling, shower screens, mirrors, the whole lot's all done. So just a matter of dropping onto the footings and plugging into your services and the clients are away. So it's really very efficient sort of on-site method.
And I saw that you guys also do a standard 1.5 kilowatt solar PV system for all projects.
Yeah, we do. Yes, all of our homes come with that. Also, a 10,000 litre water tank, solar water system as well as part of the package, double glazing. So pretty much like the whole package in terms of sustainability, trying to tick all the boxes.
Good stuff. I love that. We've got a lot going on questions here. Let's address the big one, right? Everyone wants to know, why would I go prefab, right? What's the difference here? We know cost savings in time, but what are the real experience that you've guys got when you are compared to conventional build? And we certainly will be, and a lot of the times when people are saying, yeah, but if I can build this on site, how much would it be? So let's start from the top down again. David or Knut, we've got one question for you in particular here. Why was CLT chosen in your scenario, and did this add significantly to the cost? What was your driver there, and how to use CLT, and how did that impact on the cost? Can you just let us in on that thought there?
I think one of the main reasons, because we're also asking why actually go prefab at all, I think one of the main reasons is actually the quality of what you can achieve in a building with prefab, and the possibility of all of this being pre-manufactured and prepared in a factory under controlled conditions, rather than being on site and you've got all the disruptions with weather and whatever happens on site. With the CLT for this project, it's interesting because it did not start as an idea to build I would call it a partially prefabricated house, because it doesn't come as a whole package and everything is included. It came essentially as the main structure. The CLT was used for the structure, for the walls, for the roof, the floors and everything, but that was obviously installed separately. Yeah, I think the reason with the CLT for this house was with the idea of building it as a passive house. I think there's a big advantage in using CLT because of airtightness. Starting with an airtight wall, very easy to control joints and deal with that, so you can produce an airtight building without the usual things you have to sort of work through on a traditionally built house, and things that can happen on site. I think the other part of it is obviously the sustainable background of essentially using the timber as a form of carbon storage, rather than the usual carbon emissions that you get through traditional buildings. And the other part is also in combination with the passive house, I guess, the air quality that you achieve in the building. Also using that's part of the reason why all of this timber is exposed in this case, because you actually take the advantages of the timber rather than cladding it behind and sort of cladding it with plasterboard.
I understand. Now, I do have to ask, as a bit of a passive house nerd, though, we've got 0.39 blower door test result. Who's better here? What do you guys get?
So I have to say the first blower door test was 0.33. The final blower door test was 0.4, so it was about there. I think I have to say, but I still think the reason for getting the 0.4, not the 0.33 with the final blower door test, was actually the door to the existing building, because Dave, you found that out later.
Yeah, we found there's like slight seals that even you're manufactured to the best standards. A door that's manufactured in Australia versus one made overseas is going to have a difference in performance.
Yeah, well done. We've got one question for you, Joe. People are asking what the Sapphire house would cost, and I'd particularly like to add that your flame zone that must have had sort of a bit of an add-on there, as Bell Rating generally does to some extent. Can you just give us a bit more information on that, please?
Yeah, so the Sapphire with the flame zone component added probably about 10 to 12% to the build. The total, the house as it stands was about 850,000 to build. But yeah, it's performing really well. So
okay. That is great. When it comes to the Viva panel, have you guys got how would that be comparing in performance to, let's say, SIP panel? And have you done any research on cost comparison on those two? I don't know who would prefer taking the question. Sam, might be one for you.
Yeah, so the R value of our panels is 4.1. So that's quite significant. It depends on the SIPs, I guess, but it is comparable to them. I think the advantage we see now is we use straw, which is a waste product from farming. So I've just typed an answer there. Basically, we've calculated them as carbon neutral as they leave the factory with coats of render on both sides of them. So we're sequestering carbon in these things, and even the render and stuff that goes into them is not pushing that, so they're carbon positive. So yeah, I'm quite happy.
Sam, is your actual structural system a timber frame that's an infill with straw, or is that straw the actual load bearing component there?
No, we have a timber structure in there, and they're calculated for snow loads up to 800 metres, 2-storey high. So they've got bracing within the panels, and the straw's compacted in there purely for insulation. Okay. So yeah, that's how we look at it.
Excellent. Now, Ash, COVID would have really flooded you with inquiries for new backyard offices and studios and yoga studios and gyms and whatnot. Have you explored any of those options, and is that something that you would regularly do?
Yeah,
or are you more focusing on complete larger projects? Is there any limitations to modular? Sorry.
Yeah, so we've got a range of smaller products, but a lot of our work is like your 2 to 3, 4 bedroom homes. We have a few little studios that are available for our standard designs. But with COVID, there's been a lot of inquiries. Everyone just wanting to leave the city, move to a rural location, and there's been a major increase in our inquiries lately, which has been fantastic. So yeah,
fantastic. So if you, Ash, we'll just keep going with you for a minute. If a client comes in and wants a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, how does your system, from your experience, compare to stick built on site?
Well, yeah, it's one of the advantages, and the reason why a lot of people do come to us is that guaranteed construction time. So we're looking at about probably, say, for a 3-bedroom house, it'll be about 14-week to 16-week construction in our facility. But it's more just the guarantee. Once we have a delivery date, the house gets delivered fully complete, and we're not there for like an on-site 6-month build. So that's where the advantage of our product is. And
have you guys got any data on comparison, just purely on price? How this work?
We're pretty much very comparable to like a standard, like say an on-site build, which is 7-star, energy efficient. There's a housing development close by here, which I'm a designer for, has like 7.5-star rated houses. It's called the Cape, Cape House. They're sort of ranging around the $2,500 to $2,500 a square metre for a build. And we sort of sit about 2,600 a square metre with our standard build. So yeah.
All right. David, can I chuck over to you? I know that CLT is more expensive than a stick frame build, and obviously there is some massive advantages. Are you prepared to let us in on sort of your build costs or square metre rates, and what your personal sort of benefits and still key benefits were for that?
So the personal benefits, I guess to start with, we've got a young family. Our eldest son has a health condition, was diagnosed with very early on. We had very high on the list of our priority to create a very healthy environment for him, including like the air quality and all sorts of other issues that we were trying to avoid from the past buildings we've been in. And then I guess the other point, like, sustainability is key on our mind. Whatever we do in, even if it's like gardening, that sort of thing, or building, or, just trying to go to zero waste, we're always putting sustainability on the forefront of our mind. In terms of cost, the square metre rate we were aiming for was less than a knockdown rebuild, and an architecturally finished level. We were going, basically we're quoting under $1,000 for an entire build project. So we ended up in that ballpark.
Yeah, okay. Excellent.
I think comparing costs is always an interesting question, because what do you really compare? I mean, obviously, when you're looking at standard construction, you can get a house for a certain price. Then you look at sort of, let's say, architect designed, very custom construction, that will be a different price. You can, I think it's hard to say. I would not necessarily say that CLT is more expensive than other ways of building, just because it depends on looking at, you know, what type of facade is this. This, for example, is it's a timber batten facade out of local hardwood. It's quite a, I would say it's probably quite an expensive facade cladding. As a cladding, you could obviously go much cheaper. Then obviously the whole house gets much cheaper. So I think it's always hard to compare.
I think we probably put probably about a quarter of our build budget on the cladding.
Yeah, it's always difficult. We're talking about this yesterday. You can really cost effectively pre-manufacture a house and deliver that on site to not just be on par with conventional construction. You can beat this, you know, and then you get on top of the other benefits. But then all of a sudden you're putting a kitchen in for $150,000. And there's the cost benefit, so it's the square meter rates is vague, and it is challenging, it's difficult, but you know, it's at the same time, unfortunately, is a bit of a starting point. What we need to be responding to. A lot of people always go on like, what is the benefit? There's still, we always get this aimed at people and think prefab should be cheaper. So why isn't it, or why is it, and how is it, and how much is it? So we need to be able to create a baseline there, I guess. But that's good to hear from you, Ash, when you're saying, look, we're building to 7.5 stars, then 7.5 stars becomes the baseline, right? So you can't compare it with minimum standard volume build 2.4 meter ceiling height kind of thing that is just off the shelf, that is never going to stack up. But Joe, sorry if I missed it before. Did you mention a price for our listeners here? Are you prepared to share costing with us? Sorry.
So sorry, the build for the Sapphire was about 850,000 with the flame zone component. What was that? Yeah, flame zone and passive house. So yeah.
Excellent.
So that's what, square meters. So about three and a half.
That sounds very much like what we've sort of looked at before as well. Now, Shannon and Payne, or Sam, I'll leave whoever wants to answer this one. How does yours compare to conventional?
Yeah, sure.
If we have to ask that hideous question.
No, it's not hideous. Yeah, sure. I'll answer that question. We built a 30 square and a 60 square, and we worked on a fixed price of $325K with Sam. That was our contract, and then we did some of the build ourselves, maybe another $60K.
Yeah, that certainly does help, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and
of course it's smaller. Yeah, Sam?
Yeah, the panels, usually when we build the panel houses, they start about 2,700. And as with Ashley, we don't build anything usually less than 7.5 stars. So it's all double glazing, kitchens installed, all that sort of thing. So yeah, it's that we don't have the same standard range as a brick veneer house, that's for sure.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so if I what is the most sustainable concept or aspect of your construction system? Knut, for you guys, was obviously timber. What was the main driver there as well? Or was passive houses simply ticking all the boxes?
Yeah, I think definitely the CLT helps so much to achieve the passive house standard because of air tightness, as I mentioned. Obviously, you get some benefit in terms of the thermal insulation from the timber wall itself. It's obviously not enough to get an R4 rating, but overall, with an additional 120 mil of insulation, of timber wool insulation that was used here, we also got to an R4 rating for the walls, an R6 rating for the roof.
Yeah. Did you get your CLT locally, or was that from overseas, did you say?
No, CLT is from Austria.
No, okay. Yeah, excellent. Okay. No problems. Now, we've got another big issue that we always confronted with, and that is finance, right? The big one is how do we finance this currently, whether it's a construction contract or in finance going with that for a lot of people. How's this structured? how have you guys overcome that issue? We might start with you, Ash.
Yeah, Burkhard, it is a major issue, especially for our type of product. Considering the house is fully complete in our yard before it goes to site, so
Yeah.
we've pretty much probably got 85% of the contract paid for before it leaves our yard. So the banks are quite hesitant and pretty much just don't give finance for prefab houses. So usually our clients are sort of semi-retired, self-funded, or they have to try and lever off something else they've got in terms of an asset to get some temporary finance. And once the house is delivered on site, then the bank just turns it over into a standard mortgage. So yeah, it is a big issue. It's something we're trying to work on as well, to try and create our own finance if possible down the track. So
yeah, well, it is a big challenge. We've faced this a lot of times. You know, it's then massively increases the risk for the builder, for the construction company. You just, in some of the scenarios, you just have to walk out on the plank and hope that the bank then moves quickly once it's delivered. You know, but it's certainly it's a little bit of attention to it. Now, David, without wanting, you know, obviously get too much into your finance there, could you share a bit of your experience how the finance was structured in your approach? Because CLT coming from Europe, that means you've got 4 months or so of waiting for your house to arrive. So how?
Yeah, we didn't have to get a loan for our home. We just had a fixed budget sitting in the bank account.
Okay.
And then after we finished, we refinanced to a much lower interest rate because of the fact that it was a certified passive house.
Yeah.
And that saved us over the long term, maybe over 5 years, it would probably save us $50,000.
Right, that's interesting. Did you say you got some better mortgage rate?
We got a much better mortgage rate. Yeah, because we accessed the Clean Energy Finance Corporation.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, excellent. Well, that'd be easy with passive house. Yeah, beautiful. Sam, what are your experience on this?
We haven't had clients have any real problems getting loans. One thing to note, I believe, if your house is rated more than 7 stars, Bank of Australia reduces your interest rate. So there are some institutions out there who are backing these types of houses. So yeah, so far no problems with finances for these sorts of places.
Okay. Oh, that's not too bad. Joe, any comments on that?
Yeah, so I think the banks need to get on board with the way the industry is actually moving, because it is hindering progress, cash flow for builders, and holding sort of clients to ransom, I suppose, with their some of their demands. So it's yeah, it is big. We're finding it a little bit of a problem, and especially when you are sort of doing different things, prefab, you know, cutting edge sort of stuff, you know, just things outside the box, because most of the banks are geared for the volume project type construction.
Yeah. It certainly is challenging out there, but especially now with COVID hitting, we would have thought that lending restrictions or requirements are easing off and becoming much easier to handle, but they seem to have gotten worse. Well, I don't know what your experience is there, but we've had some projects where it was an absolute no-brainer. It should have gone through, and it did go through, but it took just ages to get this process. So it's a little bit challenging, but look, we have got 5 minutes left. So I'd like to get a summary from you guys. So imagine there is a client, let's say, purchased a piece of land in Northcote, right? I'm just making this up now, 750 square meter. What's your process, and why would I come to you, and what are my main benefits? What am I getting out of this? Okay, so we've got obviously, you know, Shannon, Pat, and David. That might not be too relevant for you, but I might just hand this one over to Knut, if that's okay for you, David. What is if you can wrap this up in about a minute or 90 seconds, what would you say? Where to start?
I mean, I guess I'm obviously an architect. I'm not a builder or a producer of any of those systems.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say, in terms of what we would look at, is looking at a way of build a house as sustainable as possible, and achieve the best comfort and the best sort of energy reductions in the use of the house. I think that would definitely be a starting point for any of our clients. What we often discuss with our clients as well, but particularly if you're talking about costs and all of those things, is actually how big does your house really need to be? You know, a lot of people start with houses that get bigger and bigger and bigger. Obviously, you then have to reduce the per square meter cost lower and lower and lower to be able to afford something. So that would always be an approach to build something that is really made for you, that works for you, and that's got the right size and is not too big, and you know, doesn't get all of those extra things. Yes, and in general, the approach with why we really love using CLT is the material itself. You get a quality out of it, which I think you don't get with a lot of materials. You've got solid walls. You don't have like hollow stud frame walls, which is fine as well, but it's a different thing. You've got either a solid house or you've got a sort of a framed house, and it feels different from the inside. But I think the main point to start on a new project would be to look at what do you want to achieve in terms of your energy use and in terms of health and comfort within the house.
Yeah, okay. Excellent, thank you. Joe, you're next, so we're going through the list again. Convince me, why would I come to you and how would that work?
Yeah, so we start off with a meeting with the client, obviously, pairing them up with one of our designers, a detailed site analysis, talk to the client as to what they're trying to achieve, similar to what Knut said, and then we sort of come up with the best building method for the block of land and what they're actually trying to achieve. We have our prefab system, but it's adaptable to most types of construction. You know, we're doing one that's almost 3 stories. Well, it is 3 stories. You know, lifts in it. We've structural steel, 12 ton of structural steel, 22 cubic meters of concrete. So we just adapt it to the site and to what they want to try and do. So, and we're meeting Passive House standard with prefab. So put in a 9.2 by 3 meter high timber prefab panel the other day. So, which is massive. It's great.
Oh, excellent. Shannon and Pan and David, I've got one quick question for you. Prefab, would you do it again? Have you got any regrets? Would you do things differently if you had your chance again? We might start with you, Shannon and Pan.
Yeah, look, definitely do it again in a heartbeat. I just think the systems they just work really well. They're getting refined. We just keep getting better and better at. And I think in terms of the you know, literally within a day, you've got your walls up and your roof's ready to go. It's just insane. Excellent.
David?
Yeah, totally. I would redo a CLT passive house for sure. And where I would do it in a block where maybe, you know, nice views of farmyard or ocean or something. And that's the only thing that I would say. Like we're living so close to Menden.
Yeah.
We've got very good trees. Our trees are magnificent. They provide, like, our entire site is shaded, and even with so much shade, we maintain like 21, 22 degrees temperature.
That's beautiful. Sam,
Burkhard, just to add to that, the theory of the Northcote block. It's one of the focus, or one of the benefits of our sort of product. We've actually got a project in Northcote.
There you go.
Almost ready to be delivered. So the client's got an old house.
I did not know that, just for the record.
Yeah, they've got an old house there on site, so that's going to be demolished in about 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Our footing system will be in, and we'll be delivering 2 weeks after that. So they're potentially going to be out of their house for probably 6 weeks with no place to live. So that's a big benefit of your prefab.
The rental savings are a big one that we go into that.
We save like 52,000 a year of rent because we stayed in the existing bungalow while it was being built.
Yep. Right, Dean, I'm almost done here. Sam, last a summary of why would I go prefab over stick frame? Hit me.
Well, for us, we design and build so we can reduce the cost as much as possible. And I guess what we see our advantage is they're natural materials. So they're really healthy to live in. They're good for the environment. You know, the renders, etc., reduce airborne bacteria. They can reduce VOCs, not that we put any in the houses. So yeah, ours are really natural, and we design them to be like a brick veneer thickness on the wall, so we can substitute them for existing designs and make them as cost effective as we can.
Excellent. Look, I've got to wrap that up. I'm just about to go over here. Sorry, Dean. I'd really like to thank our panel today, our panelists. It's been an absolute pleasure. I personally love talking to other prefab businesses. I can feed off that energy. You know, it makes you feel that you're not alone fighting this fight in that change. So thank you very much for all your efforts and for the fantastic results that you're delivering. And thanks again for Renew for all the work that they've done. And that is us for today.